I've got three more scheduled for later this week, but it's this. I don't have one out yet today, so uh,
Why do you prefer to do it in the noon? It's interesting. You have
well, if I like to do it live, and usually if we give our audience a week or two, we'll get 10 plus people, and they'll join us and they'll ask questions, and it'll be more interactive. And noon is a good time because people are on their lunch break and they are generally can hop out and join. I can do evenings as well, but we usually host other types of events in the evenings.
got you. If you want, if it's easier for you, if you want to reschedule it, that's fine with me.
No, absolutely not.
No, okay, no
The
problem.
podcast is the thing. We only get a handful of people for these live interviews anyway. But the podcast is where we get everybody. All right. And
Sure.
one thing, Assel Baglinova.
I know it's tough, right?
It's all right. I'm used to it. I just have to make sure I get it okay. If I'm wrong, tell me because I want to get it right.
It's
Baglinova.
Beglinova.
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 Beglinova. All right. I'll probably stumble on it, but if I
Of
stumble on it, just keep going because I can re-record my intro after.
course, no worries, no worries.
All right. We're going. We're going. All right. Welcome back to Startup Talk. I'm your host, the Startup Coach, founder of Toronto Starts, one of the largest startup communities in Canada. And with me today is Assel Beglinova, co-founder of and CEO of Paperstack. Welcome, Assel.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Greg. Nice to meet you.
It's great to meet you. We haven't talked before, but I'd like you to start off with telling me about Paperstack.
Paperstack, it's a platform for freelancers for bookkeeping and tax filing. We help freelancers pay less taxes by capturing all the deductions, all the expenses. So at the end of the year, they know exactly how much taxes they owe and they can minimize it. No surprises at the tax season.
Definitely seems to be something freelancers need, and we're going to get a little bit into that in a bit. But I like to start off with who the entrepreneur was growing up. Were you a handful for your parents? Were you studious into music, sports?
Sure. I think for you to for it would be fair if I say where I'm originally from. I'm originally from Kazakhstan. So I was born and raised in Kazakhstan. I moved to Canada at the age of 18 by myself. So if you're talking about the years time, yeah. So at that time I was in Kazakhstan. I was back home. I was a good student. I was a good student, but I was always up for adventures. Let me put it this way.
And when did you want to know that you wanted to? When did you know that you wanted to run your own business? Did you know that back in Kazakhstan, or did you figure that out over here?
I always wanted to do it back in Kazakhstan when I was a kid. But again, right, because I was a kid, and then one time we're like, oh, that would be so cool if I had my own business, I look at someone and then, a week later I will see, another, somebody else doing something cool in the movie. I was like, no, I want this. Now I want to be this. So my mind was always racing, and yeah. But I think desire to be an entrepreneur was always strong. I just didn't know how exactly to do it. Like entrepreneurship, it's not something taught. Back home, business is not something taught back home. And like in high school, in the middle school, like we're hardly focused on science classes like math, languages, I don't know, physics, chemistry, and everything else, but not marketing, sales, or business. So it was hard for me to visualize these things, but like I would be reading books, I would be watching some movies, but that's all. That's the furthest we could go. I didn't have in my network anybody who did like tech business at that time.
And so when you moved here when you were 18,
Mm-hmm.
is that your first exposure to business type courses and that type of thing?
Well, from the business type, I was always like self-educating myself from the books, right? But like it wasn't very advanced. Like I would be, yeah, so I think I would be reading anything that's like available for the general public. But then here in Canada, so first when I came, I had to study English. Like I had to improve my English to get into college. Then I went to college and studied accounting. So yes, in school, I was studying business. That was like a deeper exposure. But then I also started meeting different people here in Canada. It's so diverse. And yes, one thing you learn from, I guess, from the books, but then another thing is like when you actually meet people and they start talking to you about like their side hustles, what they do, what they did, what worked, what didn't. So that was my intro.
Yeah, it's completely different reading it in the books and hearing the stories than being in a room full of people who are doing it. And happy to tell you about what they're doing and what they're starting and their crazy ideas. Um, so you came here, you got into college. When did Paperstack come to mind? When did it come
Oh,
to?
oh God, I'm gonna be lying to you if I say it was always part of the plan that I'm gonna study accounting and then I'm gonna do a business in that space. No, no, definitely no. Accounting happened to be a sort of a choice within the family meeting. You know, when we had to before I came to Canada, like we had to choose the program, and then of course, my parents are very far from here, right? And then they were scared. Of course, they were worried, and then accounting was kind of like a safe choice. Like, oh, the chances of you getting a job will be higher if you get accounting, and then so first couple of years here, I was always in the survival mode. There was no idea about like creativity, business kind of thing. It was all about, oh, like how do I get my first job? How do I get my apartment rented? Because when you come to Canada, you don't have any credit history. And then for you to get an apartment, they'll check for your credit history and for your employment. And I didn't have anything, right? And then that would be like a catch-22 problem. So yeah, so I think that things that were occupying my mind versus, oh, creating building a business or another company that will change people's life or anything. To be honest with you, I regret that I didn't push myself further. Like I was always focused on like, I think necessary things, like basic things for me to survive. I wasn't thinking ambitious. I wasn't thinking very far at that time. Yes, and then first couple of years it was just only these things that was in my mind all the time.
And so you got your CPA.
No, no, I don't have a CPA.
Okay. So you're doing your accounting,
Yeah.
and when does it strike you that there is a huge gap in the accounting software that's available and the need that freelancers have?
Well, I think when I was studying in college, right, we had to do a lot of things. So it didn't happen right away. It was sort of like a little by little, like drop by drop. So when I was studying in college, we had like a lot of classes like managerial accounting, financial accounting, different things. And then all the tests I remember, like one of the tests, like we had to do like statements by hand, like actually write all the statements by hand. And then I would be like, why do we need to write it by hand? But the teachers were like, if you know how to do it by hand, then all these calculations, then when things will not work well, you know how to fix it in the software versus like if you will see it on the software and then you will be kind of like scared or lost. So I couldn't understand that properly, like the logic. I was like, yes, but if you're still doing it by hand, you're spending a lot of time on this manual things that you don't necessarily, you can do it with a calculator, with a program, right? So, but again, that was kind of like my first doubts in the system. Let me put it this way: in when we were doing it, but I trusted the process. I was like, you know what? It's a program. It's designed to be like that for accounting students. Maybe that's the way to learn about these things. So I didn't really like dig deeper into it. And then when I started working in the bank, and then when my friends started actually like coming to me about like personal finance, asking questions like, oh, so should I do RSP or should I do TFSA? Should I do this? Should I do this? This is when I started digging deeper into the problems, like asking, like, but why? Why do you need this? Why do you have problems with this? And then, of course, there are many problems that, or many challenges that people face when it comes to personal finances. But one of the core things that I've noticed, it's cash flow. Yes, you can think about whether I should put money in this mutual fund for this mutual fund for this stocks and this stocks, but it doesn't matter if your cash flow is, not very strong, right? And then this is what piqued my curiosity, and I was like, okay, but why do people have problems with cash flow, right? And then one thing was emotional spending, but then another thing I've noticed for self-employed people is that because self-employed people or business owners are so busy, like they have to do so many things, they wear so many hats in their business, that during their cash flow, like actually keeping track of every transactions, every receipt, it's a lot of time consuming for them. So it always gets pushed to the last, like last item in the to-do list. So this is when I started realizing that actually it's a problem for a lot of people.
And it definitely is a problem for freelancers and startups who, like you say, they're doing everything. And I like to say that if you don't do it, the entrepreneur's mindset. If I don't do it, it doesn't get done. So, and things like keeping track of all the sheets, you just throw them in a box, or you don't exactly what happens. And at the end of the month or whenever some email comes in where this is a priority now, you got to figure this out. You start panicking. So how does Paperstack solve the procrastination problem as well as all the manual entry, or make this a priority for the business owner?
Sure. So how it works is you plug into our platform your business account, and then our tech goes through every transaction and see if they can write it off or not. Right, Jim is agree. Meals and entertainment, yes and no, and these things. What and that's how we can go through every transactions and to maximize all the write-offs. So you don't have to make the decision for yourself. It's on the autopilot. And then, of course, we have currently, because we are in the early stages, we have a CPA who reviews the final output, just to make sure our program does it right. Um, Regarding the issues, he said that you have to keep track of it, and because if you don't do it, nobody will do it. There is a decision fatigue that comes, and a little bit stress and anxiety for a lot of people, for self-employed people, to do it on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or monthly basis. Because if you are somebody who is doesn't like accounting or doesn't like bookkeeping, for example, maybe you're a creative person, right? Or you just don't feel comfortable doing bookkeeping. And then you have to do it, even if it's only like 5 transactions or 10 transactions you have to go through, right? And just sort it out. You start like, stumbling and saying, can I actually write it off? Or should I not? Should I do it? Should I not? And then because there is like a decisions you have to make and you're not sure, and it's not very well informed decisions, people start being stressed about it, and this is why they put it away. It's not because of they're lazy or they just like, it's because it gives so much stress for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's friction,
Yeah.
and it seems like, oh, I got these 20, 30 transactions I got to put in the system of things I bought or whatnot, and I don't know which ones I can write off, which ones aren't, which ones, and I just don't know. And so now it's a lot of friction. Now I got to start Googling stuff. Is this person giving me the right information? Is it not the right information? And then you're like stressed out, anxious. It's a lot of friction, and you walk away. A lot of people do. Again, counting's not my favorite thing to do, and I find that most freelancers are more interested in do finding new clients or doing billable work, right? So this is where all these things drop to the bottom, and it sounds like you're automating a lot of it to say, all right, here are all the transactions we've seen in your account. These are the ones we believe are you can write off, and these ones you shouldn't.
Yes, absolutely. And the reason, like, you're absolutely right about like freelancers being more excited about doing more billable hours or even talk to potential clients, because that's the reason why they choose to be freelancer. It was an intentional decision, right? And they were like, I want to do what I like doing. And this is why I want to take this path. But yes, but unfortunately, when you run business, it comes also with a lot of responsibilities. uh, and yes, so absolutely, and I agree it, and I'm so happy to be part of their journey. Like, I don't know, being with freelancers is so cool. Like, type of I get to learn so many like businesses, how they do it, how they find clients, their aspirations, what their long-term plans. So it's very interesting. And of course, like, you're not alone, definitely. Like, accounting, it's not something that comes to first thing, top of the list. Like, when I talk to my clients or potential clients, they're like, oh, I gotta redesign my landing page. Oh, I'm taking this course, and then I think I can increase my billable hours, from $50 to $60. Like, these things, $50 to $60 per hour. All these things come first things in the discussion, and then, oh yeah, I have to do bookkeeping also. And bookkeeping and taxes is always the last thing to do in their activities.
Cash flow really is the number one reason why businesses fail. They run out of money. And I run an accelerator program, and every time we get to the accounting part and we pull out the budgeting and we say you got to plan it, everyone's eyes roll back in the head. They don't want to do it. They say this is stupid. The examples are too simple. It's like, yeah, well, like, okay, but you want me to make it even harder for you? Is this like there's enough friction here already? You don't want to do it. So it really is, but they don't understand that 6 months from now, you started this business, you're a freelancer, and all of a sudden you can't pay your bills, and your partner that wants to go out for dinner and you can't, and your credit cards are maxed out. Are you going to survive? Like, you have to plan and you have to know, and it's really important to understand cash flow, and having a tools that will help people manage it is so important.
Absolutely. But see, I don't blame them, because when you get into business, you don't come to the business to do a cash flow, right? You think about other things, how my product is going to change people's life, how I'm going to be different, how I'm going to be beat my competitors, etc., etc. And like, yes, absolutely. But and cash flow, see, here's the thing, right, about the cash flow, because why there is a friction also. A lot of people say, especially startups, like, things change all the time. So they don't believe it's going to be accurate even like a month from now. So this is why they don't believe in putting a lot of efforts. Because, startup life is a little bit unpredictable.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. I've also seen people, businesses get to 100 or 200 employees, and their business model just isn't right. In fact, if they stop making sales, then everything falls flat. They've got the support model, they've got all the stuff, but if they if they don't make the next really big sale, then the company ends. They don't have this uh, proper run rate, your support model, how does that generate revenue and all that kind of stuff. Now, does your software allow them to see that kind of stuff early when they're going to their run rate is higher than their burn rate's higher than the month coming in, and you're going to see those you talked about peaks and valleys. What we want is cash flow, right? So when you have those valleys, are you going to be able to say, listen, we've saved money for those times because we know that November, December is a slow period, versus that kind of stuff. Does that make any sense? Do you have
um,
predictable mapping, that kind of stuff in there?
So regarding the cash flow, we don't focus on the big teams, right? Like the ones that have like even small teams. We purely focus on businesses of one, like companies that are run by one person. So that's the first of, and the second is we send them monthly reports in a very friendly way that people from non-accounting space can understand, saying, Greg, this is how much you made. This is how much you spend. This is all their money. Your money went to. This is mostly your business. Like the business expenses are going towards this. So it's in a very easy, but also understanding, and that gives a lot of insights about what's going on in the cash flow in your business. So it goes every month.
So, how do I integrate this with my accountant?
With us, you don't need an
All
account.
right.
With us, you don't need an accountant. But again, right, some people prefer to have an accountant because their parents went to the accountant and now they want to go to this exactly the same accountant because this accountant been with their family for like the last 20 years. That's totally okay. With us, it's just we cater towards the people that don't want to be with accountants. They want to use they want to leverage tech tools. Although we have a human accountant right now, right, a CPA who double checks all the outputs, but it's mainly they interact with the platform.
So that's great. So sounds like you take care of everything. People, they wouldn't necessarily need QuickBooks or any of these other tools that are more suited to accounting or bookkeeper than people who are running their own business.
Yes, absolutely. This is why we want to be convenient, right? We don't want to create more work to our clients, like because we understand how valuable their time is. We don't want to be like, oh, we do only this, but if you want this, you have to see this person, and then if you want this, and another person, and then our clients would be like, yeah, so I might as well just go to an accountant because that person can do everything end to end. So definitely we want to be easy to use and convenient for our clients.
So can we talk about what the business model looks like? Who pays for what? Is it a monthly subscription? How does it work?
Yes, it is a monthly subscription. Full disclosure, we are experimenting right now with the prices
Good.
because we're thinking about maybe there's different tiers we can come up with different like volume-based transaction, right? For example, if you only have 7 transactions, maybe your pricing should be different from somebody who makes like, I don't know, 60 transactions per month, right? I think it's fair to have the suggestion. So again, we are still experimenting, and right now we have pricing. It's $200 per month, but it's everything included, like monthly bookkeeping, and then it's also included your annual tax filing.
Yeah, that's definitely reasonable. And the price is good. I find that most startups under price. They price themselves too low. I don't know. I can't say specifically in this case but experimenting with pricing is interesting because once you start getting a client base, you understand where your bread and butter is, and you might have, say, if you only have 5 transactions a month, it's free because
I don't know.
yeah, I'm just saying
Yes,
because you want to onboard once they're in their system, once they get over a certain amount, because you don't know until you figure out how it all works and who your best the people who get the maximum out of it are and who your feeder clients are. But there's a lot of interesting opportunities now. It's an exciting time when you're figuring out the pricing model.
yes, it's an interesting time, and the thing is that I try to have kind of like a logic, I think, when it comes to pricing, right? So we did the research, we looked at our competitors, we looked how much the accountants charge, like all these things kind of came, and then what is the reasonable amount for you to spend. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes people make decisions mm, just emotional, financial decisions.
Absolutely, people, uh, cold hard data has no convincing value. People do not make decisions on cold cognition; they make it on hot cognition. It's all emotional.
Yes, it's so emotional, and then I'm thinking, like, is it really like I'm new to this game, right? And I'm still figuring out a lot of things. But this is an interesting thing I've noticed is like sometimes people would be again, not in our case, but I've seen people complaining about certain tools or certain pricing, like, oh my god, they started charging from 70 to $99 per month. But at the same time, I will see that person buying very expensive shoes or like bags, for like $500 and so. And you're like, Like, weren't you that person who was complaining about, that price increase from, by 25 $29, and then it just I'm still figuring it out, like how people decide what's actually expensive, what's actually overpriced and underpriced. It's an interesting thing.
Yeah, and it's obviously you're going through this, so price anchoring and a bunch of other techniques where you're trying to uh, emotionally attach this to something. I'll give you an example. I work with somebody who wanted to was in my accelerator program. She wanted to do cheap online tutoring, and she ended up going off to do other things. So I can tell the story. So I'm not.
Yeah.
And then we went into it. And we Googled cheap online tutoring, and there's thousands. She said you can't find them anywhere. Well, we started proposing. Say, well, why don't you do unlimited tutoring? And he's like, what? And I said, well, why don't you say from 3 to 6 p.m. after school, unlimited tutoring for your parents? This is the after school, get your homework done, whatever help you need, mathematics, history, music, and charge $1,000 a month. And she went, what? Well, think about it this way. If parents coming home, 1,000 might be too high, it might be 500, might be 600, might be 1,000. I come home. I used to have to come home, pick up my kids, take them to soccer, take them to this, make sure they got their homework. There's so much stuff but we can't do those things if they don't have their schoolwork done. And, knowing that they have that done and I don't have to fight with them to get it done when I get home and we can have quality time. And that is worth $1,000 a month. Like, it's not, you have to really price anchor it for the person who's buying it, saying, I'm not going to fight with my kid anymore. They have unlimited tutoring. There's no excuse for getting their homework done. If they need math help, they need history help. And I don't have to worry about it. When I get home, it's done. Price it. What is that? Which you don't necessarily price it compared to traditional tutoring, traditional this, traditional that. You're solving a completely different problem.
And I completely agree with you. I think quality time is important, and then you don't want to spend the rest of your evening fighting with your kid, because for a tutor it might take an hour to complete everything, but for you as a parent, might take, I don't know, a couple of hours to finish all the homework with your kids. But what was her reaction to that? Like, what did she? Obviously, you said she moved on, but like, I'm
Well, at
curious.
first she was very resistant to it, and then
Mhm.
just didn't think the business model would fly. But as soon as we got her out pitching to people, her eyes lit up. Like, wait a minute, people like didn't understand the pain that parents have. I get home at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and then I got to wrestle for 3 hours. My kid get their homework done. It's 10 p.m. Who's having a good time? Rather than I get home and it's done, and now we can just play games or do whatever, and that's a whole different life. Like it's a lifestyle change. And once she started talking to parents, it really changed how she looked at it. So again, talking to your clients and positioning it into the problem you're actually solving is you're giving them a huge quality of life upgrade and their relationship back with their kids. What's that worth?
And it's worth definitely more than
Yeah.
$1,000.
Yeah, so
But
you flip it back to this when you say business owners, you have an automated AI automatically doing your books. You get your detailed report monthly, weekly, whenever you want to do it. You have CPAs looking over it. You don't have to put all your receipts here, haul them off there, do this, do that. All that hours, all that, that is what you're potentially solving for people. So you really, once you figure out that how to define that headache, that problem. The how much people will pay will become much easier and much more revealed.
yes, it's not necessarily when we are we're not selling necessarily like, oh, we're just, a cheaper accountant, or like an accountant that will do everything, not in weeks, but will do it in days or minutes. We're not competing on that necessarily. We're competing on convenience, right? Now you don't have to worry about, should you expense it or not. Now when the tax season comes, you don't have to have a nightmares, thinking, oh my god, how much taxes will I owe, do I have enough things saved? So first of all, peace of mind and convenience, that's absolutely. And I completely agree with you that the pricing will come later. Like, if I believe that if we provide the value, people would be willing to pay for the services. if we solve the actual pains.
Yeah, and how much time? How much is your time worth? So you sit there and say, if this is automatically doing it, instead of me having to spend 10 hours a month or whatever it is doing that, I pay you $200 a month. Well, that's a no brainer.
Yeah.
Like just when you start thinking about now, I can take my time and be selling. So how many more billable hours do I need to pay for that? Well, easily enough. So the value is there easy. So I think it'll be interesting to see what business model you end up with in a year or two.
Thank you.
So I understand you recently raised 250K as a pre-seed round. How did all that happen? Did you talk to a lot of investors? What was the process like?
We we started fundraising in the summer, right? And I've never done fundraising before. Like this is the first time I'm doing it, and I heard all these scary stories, how tough it is, and then like I was sometimes watching like Dragons Den. It was like really, really, I was like, oh my God, I'm getting into this. So I was trying to prep myself, but then everyone was like, no, you should not. A lot of people warned us saying like you should not do it in the summer. Actually, summer is slow in Canada. You should like wait until September starts. And in September, everything will start picking up. And then this is when you can successfully close your race. But we still didn't listen and we proceeded with that. And yeah, it wasn't easy. It was a bit tough, and but we still managed. It's just we had to come up with the process how to do it. Let me be fair. Like when we first started doing fundraising, it was kind of like chaotic. Oh, we'll just pitch it to anybody, everyone who is willing to listen and take a call with us. But then I started, okay, this is how we're going to be doing, right? So from the morning, early morning till late afternoon or evening, it's going to be pitching. All the day we're pitching. Like we're coming up to booked meetings. And then after we finished our pitching, usually investors will say, you know what, can you also answer this question? It's usually like if the meeting is done, they would be like, oh, if you could answer this in the email, take your time, that would be cool. And then after those meetings, we will right away send the follow-up messages, thanking for their time and then answering all the questions they had. Or how would I say this? Answering some concerns or hesitations they had. And then in the evening, after that, we will be doing cold outreach or another asking for introduction. And this was the cycle that worked for us. Because I've realized if you don't, I know startup is very chaotic, fundraising could be really tough and mess, but when you have these things figured out, it's easier. It gets much easier, even though, like you have, 5 or 8 meetings to pitch, but then after that, you know exactly what you're going to do. It's just mentally gets so much easier for you to survive.
Yeah, once you have a plan, I find that special early stage startups, they go into it without a plan. They talk to 3 and 4 investors and get discouraged. And it's okay. Well, you got to talk to your first 10, 15 just to get a feel of what you're doing, who you need to talk to, what they're going to be looking for. As a startup and what you need to be pitching, and then go through the list, target your. I give startup spreadsheets to help them track each of their potential leads that they're following up and where they are and the. But once you have a plan of attack, you have your standard outreach, you have your standard message, you got cold outreach that actually works because you've thought it through, and you do a little research on the people you're hitting. You get some pretty good responses for meetings, and once you have that going. But I like to say you need to talk to 100 investors in 5 weeks if you want investment. How did it go for you?
It went so for me that made my life easier and my co-founders' life easier. It's we had this number 100. We weren't discouraged by first like 10 no's, let me put it this way. So we knew we have to speak to 100. We were experimenting with cold messages, which cold messages actually work. So what we realized is like, you can't just say, hey, Greg, this is Assel, we're working on a cool thing and you should invest in us. This is why. It shouldn't be like that. It should be, hi, Greg, I'm sorry for the cold messages, because people don't like having cold messages and nowadays because they get overwhelmed in their inbox. This is why you should care about Paperstack, because maybe you're an accountant, or maybe you've already invested in a similar things, or maybe you said something in the Twitter, that you're looking for these things. And this is our like overview, like 3 bullet points. And then at the end, you just say, hey, if you think that's something you're interested in, let me know if you would be open to chat. That's it. That's simply how it worked. But also what it worked for us is a spreadsheet that you're mentioning about. And what happened, and that's very interesting what happened, maybe months 2 when we were fundraising, or closer to the end, like let's say in the middle, let me put it this way. Every month we were sending monthly update saying, this is what we've done, this is what we want to do, and this is our ask, our progress, our lessons learned, and what we're asking for. And then in the middle of fundraising, more people started helping us out. And what essentially happened, several people said, send me your spreadsheet, who you want to talk to, who you already talked. I'm going to look like who else you need to reach out, and let me make that introduction for you. And that was a game changer for us, because now it wasn't only me and my co-founder doing it. I felt like we had a whole village helping us with fundraising. One person would be like, oh, I can take this and this and this meetings for you. And then another person would be like, oh, I actually know this person or this partner. And this is it. This helped us a lot. Then we started having more meetings, more feedback, and more chances of closing the deal.
Yeah, I find the more people you talk to, the more people want to help, and the more people get involved. And some people will write you small checks early, which is great, because that's another startup misbelief is someone's going to write me $1 million check. Well, that's not how it works. Someone's going to write you a $10,000 check. Someone's going to write you a $25,000 check. Someone's going to write 50, and then all of a sudden someone will do 100,000. And each of those investors will be telling other people about it. And once you start getting those checks, that's when the momentum starts to happen. Was that how it happened with you?
Yes, regarding the small checks, I echo what you're saying, and I 100% agree with you. With us, it was interesting. Some of the investors will put a smaller check, but then they will see how much we're hustling in the monthly updates. That person will see, and they'll say, you know what, let me increase my allocation if you allow me. So that happened to us. So somebody will start small, but then start putting more money towards the middle and at the end of the fundraising. And then we started having, regarding other investors, talking to other investors, exactly that happened to us. We actually had our investor team who would pitch about us to his circle, and then he would bring those investors to the calls, and he would be sitting with us pitching to that investor. And it worked. It just worked. And it was amazing, when your investor sits down with you and pitches with you. That was a different game. And I think the tone of the conversations, it's a little bit different, right? So because you have you're less skeptic towards the startup, because it's not just another startup, like that's not the mindset they will have, because you have so many people vouching for you for that startup, and you'll be like, maybe there is something about the startup I should be taking a closer look. So I am so grateful. I'm so grateful for my friends, my network, my investors, because they were taking it so seriously, and we're very, very fortunate to have them.
Well, congratulations on the pre-seed round. That's amazing. And I also noticed you got into the Google Accelerator program. When does that start?
So Google Accelerator, it was we started officially September 27th, but they onboarded us. They had like a first call with us a week before September 27th. So we applied there in the summer. And how it happened is I follow I follow and I'm connected somebody who I look up to. I think she's my mentor. Can call her that. Julie from Loom. She's a co-founder and CEO of a Loom, a legal tech company that helps with trademark, makes it accessible for many people and helps out. So she's ahead of us, and she's somebody that would, jump on a call with me and say, hey, Assel, this is what I've done. This is what worked for me. This is what didn't work. So it was like a short summary for me, almost a blueprint, right? What should I do and what should I not do? But she would always say, again, this is my story. Like, it doesn't mean it will absolutely 100% work for you, but she would always be generous about her experience. And then she went through Google Accelerator herself. And when Google was doing announcement or so, like on social media, she tagged me. And it was something about hustlers. And she said, Assel got the hustle. And she tagged me there. And I think her comment was the first one. And then I right away messaged to her, oh my God, they're opening up. She said, apply their SAP. You should do it. And then you have the sense of urgency, I think, because it was closing soon. So we applied there. And a couple of weeks after, or a month, we're getting a notification saying, congrats, you made it to the final round. And then after that, yes, I received that we actually got accepted. So they have 8 companies from the US and 4 companies from Canada, this cohort.
Fantastic. And it's always good. It's one of our tips that, and it seems like it followed you naturally, is get someone at a previous program to talk to them about you. And it sounds like that's happened. And if you can do that, that usually gets them in the mindset of thinking about you. Because if someone else has successfully gone through the program that they respect and know, says that about someone else, that gives you a leg up. And people like those warm intros because, it's better than not knowing someone at all, because someone's vouching for them that they'll hustle, they'll do this. That's amazing. And so how long is the program?
Absolutely, the program, and for 10 weeks. It's very intense program. We've already started it out, so I love it. It's amazing, and I highly recommend everyone who's in the tech space, please take advantage, please apply. It's an amazing program.
And I'm going to talk to you after, not after today, but after you've finished the program, to learn a little bit more about it. I also like to share both successes and failures, so there's a chance that someone listening won't make the same mistakes. Can you tell us a time where you screwed up and what happened?
Yeah, oh my God, I screwed up so many times in my life, like a lot. So regarding the Paperstack, let me put it this way, right? If it's let's make it relevant. So first, I thought people need an app. I thought everyone needs an app with this idea that I got, because it's 2021 and why not?
Yep.
Because I was so convinced, I was so in love with this app idea, you cannot imagine. And thank God, people convinced me my co-founder convinced me to test it out before actually building it, because he's a CTO, right? So let's test it out. And my friend Nakisha, she is a UX designer, and she was running these meetups where people would, you can bring out your design and people will criticize and give you feedback. So I am so excited to show them my app, my design. I was like, now this is my time to show. This is my time when everyone will be like, when can I sign up? And they were some of them were freelancers and they were UX designers also. So it was like a lot of good feedback. And I'm coming here. I am excited and I'm waiting for that. When are you gonna say, "Oh my God, this is genius, Assel"? And 100% of them, like not even one person, they said no. They said, "I will not use it." I don't like it. I will not use it. You have to do something different. Like not even one person said like, it's a cool idea. It's a cool thing. You should keep going. No, it was a failure in the public. Let me put it this way, because it was a meetup, right? Everyone was there, so I was presenting. But I'm glad it happened early, and we did spend a lot of time building it.
a little embarrassment is better than spending $200,000 on building an app and finding out no one wants it. So
Yes,
absolutely.
yes. But I was like designing it so carefully, I was like, wow, there's gonna be a lot of designers, so my design has to be really good. But they were like, it's not about the design, don't worry about it.
I got to tell you, I had the same issue. So Toronto Starts was working on, we had a group together. We're working on an app for a bunch of reasons and what was going to be in the app and all that kind of stuff. And then, so I did exactly testing. So we have a startup community. So I'm all the startups looking for funding. I started getting on a Zoom with them and started showing them the very first thing they said, every single one of them. Why the F are you doing an app? No one wants to download another app. I'm like, and it took like the third or fourth one for me to realize like this is the message. So yeah, but it's interesting that most founders have that idea. I'm going to build an app. I'm going to like literally this is, but when you start getting into it, maybe what you're doing is not best suited for an app.
Yes, but I wanted to have an app, it's so cool. But it was so embarrassing, but it was so good. I'm so grateful for her. She actually, gave me that spot and dedicated like the whole hour of people, towards my app idea. And yeah, because they were like, what? App for accounting? Are you kidding me? Like, I don't want to have an app for an accounting, like for taxes, like get out of. So they were like, I don't want to do it myself. Like, why? Like all this time I had an accountant who was doing it, like, and I didn't have to have an app. Now you're telling me I have to have an app and I have to do it myself. Because before that, I thought it's going to be like do it yourself kind of thing, where I had this cool idea for apps that I thought, so let's say you will use it and then you'll have a transaction, right? You'll grab a lunch and then it will pop up and will ask you, oh, was it a client meeting or no? So you just swipe right and left. That was that app idea that I had. And then if you say yes, everything will be saved in the database, and then by the end of the year, you'll have everything saved because you will be swiping right and left all this time. But they were like, we don't want to do it. When we have a lunch, I don't want to swipe right and left thinking about was it a business meal or a personal meal, they said. So that was my failure.
Yeah, absolutely. And the feedback you get out of having these meetings is great. Like we do networking events, open pitch, open bar, that kind of thing. And people come up and pitch and they are excited. They think everyone's going to immediately fall in love with their idea. And then they find out afterwards, not so much. But the feedback, if you can take it, if you have thick enough skin to say, well, they're here to help me. They're not they're not saying I'm a bad person or my ideas. They're saying that, take the feedback and learn that those type of experiences are so important.
It is important, and it takes how would I say that it like you cannot have an ego when you are a startup founder, especially early startup founder, right? Because you'll have a lot of feedback, and some feedbacks will be actually true and some of them will hurt you. And the more hesitation you create, more friction you'll create, and less valuable it will be for you. So it's something that all of us have to, I think, learn how to take that feedback.
Absolutely. Do you have any resources or communities that you would recommend that other people try out? I'm always suggesting other resources, startup resources that people check out.
It will be selfish if I can promote certain. Can I promote something
Absolutely.
that right? Do you give me permission?
Absolutely. Promote whatever you want.
Okay, thank you so much. So there is a recent community. Recently, we rebranded the community into Maple Maker. It's meant for early, early, early startup founders, like early stage founders. So we have a Slack channel. We have a lot of events, internal and in public also. So essentially, we know that building startup is sucks sometimes and it's lonely. So what we do is we have a small, like it's not a large community, but it's very intimate, I would say. And then we have different channels, and one of the channels a lot of people are doing is they have their channels of the company. So we have like a paper stack, and then we have others. So you're building in public. Essentially we're sharing almost on a daily basis, like, oh, today I'll have like 10 calls with the clients. And then if you need the help, rapidly people can jump into your channel and help you out, if you have questions or concerns, or if you just, feel bad, or if you feel lost, like because people track your success almost, not when you just raise money, right? But all your ups and downs.
Absolutely.
So
Sounds
so
like a
Maple
great
Maker.
resource. If the other people can join it, send me the link. I'll put it in the show notes so people can click on it and that kind of stuff. We, although we're a startup community, there's so many startup communities. We want people to find whatever resources are valuable for them, right? And that's the whole thing. In Canada, in Toronto, there's so many different communities, so many different resources. We want to connect people with as many of the right ones as possible. So it's always great to have more resources to share with people.
Okay.
So this has been a great conversation, but what's next for you and Paperstack?
What's Thank you so much for having me. Yes, what's next? It's exciting. We want to finish Google Accelerator with success, right? We want to maximize every day and every hour with them. So we want to come out of it very, very strong on the demo day. So that's focused. We need to figure out a lot, like with the pricing, for example, right? A message. We will be growing our team. We recently welcome a few team members that will be sharing publicly soon, getting more clients. Now we are in the beta mode for our platform, but hopefully we will be going into public life soon. So that's next.
So if people want to find out more or maybe even join the beta program, where do they go?
They go to our website, Paperstack.ca.
Fantastic. I really appreciate taking the time talking about your funding journey, talking about Paperstack and all the trials and learning that you had along the way. It's been an amazing conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you